D in the building. We are also live on Facebook. SportsRap Radio Show is the group page. That's where you can tune in if you cannot tune in through the mobile app, which you can if you go to Instagram at SportsRap_D. The link is in the bio. Also, the link is in the description of the group. So get over to the group, get the link, and then turn it on. And then you won't have to sit and stare at your computer all day. You can catch the video later. It'll be up on YouTube tomorrow, probably. Mike, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. So, I know I am going to have some comments on some stuff today because I definitely have a lot to say about the Eagles game. But I'm going to try and keep it to a minimum. I'm going to try and keep it as short and concise as possible because there are a lot of people who are disturbed, disappointed, upset, disgusted, frustrated. The list could go on, but we will definitely get to that. So what I'm going to do now is, as we always do at this point of the show, I'm going to give you your scores from yesterday's NFL schedule. Now, I do believe that everyone watched all the games and all of that jazz, yada, yada, yada. But as my duty, I do what I do. Frank, what's going on? I like to give you the scores so you can catch up and see what you missed or hear what you missed in case you were out running around after the Eagles game in haste, or if you started drinking extra after the Eagles game and fell asleep on the 4 o'clock games. But nonetheless, I will get you caught up. On Thursday, the September 24th, kicked off week 3, Miami defeated Jacksonville 31-13. We move into Sunday's games, yesterday's games. Chicago defeats Atlanta 30-26. Atlanta does it again. They sit now with 0-3, but now it's like 2 weeks in a row where they have botched a possible win. And botched a possible win. We'll definitely make more reference to that a little bit on down the line. The Rams get their first loss of the season. They fall to Buffalo 35-32. The Washington football team is being brought back to reality. They fall to Cleveland 34-30. The Tennessee Titans edge out the Minnesota Vikings 31-30. The Las Vegas Raiders, it's just weird. It feels weird saying that right now. The Las Vegas Raiders fall to the New England Patriots 36-20. San Francisco 49ers, in the midst of all their injuries, demolished the Giants 36-9. Cincinnati at Philadelphia, that game played to a tie. And again, you know we are definitely going to talk about that. Houston falls to Pittsburgh 28-21. The Jets get demolished as well by Indianapolis 36-7. Carolina defeats the Chargers 21-16. The Bucks get their second win. They defeat the Denver Broncos 28-10. Detroit Lions edge out the Arizona Cardinals 26-23. Dallas, in a valiant effort and a comeback once again, fall to Seattle 38-31. And Green Bay edges out New Orleans in the Sunday night game 37-30. Tonight, rounding out week 3, Monday Night Football, Kansas City at Baltimore. So, that being said, I'm going to go back. First, I'm going to start, and this is going to lead me right into where I want to go. The Atlanta Falcons, once again, botched another possible win, like I said. So there's a lot of turmoil there as well, almost as much turmoil as there is in Philadelphia with the Eagles. But they're in Atlanta, and 2 weeks in a row, they botched the win. See, the Eagles can ironically or comically or jokingly say they have a slight edge on them because they shot themselves in the foot yesterday, which was giving away a possible win. But last week, they just flat out lost. So they kind of have an edge with that. They just flat out lost. They didn't have a chance, to last week to win the game. So that is that. After I go through this, before I close out this segment, I will give you my picks for week 4. And as you know, we are doing our weekly polls once again on the show. The schedules, as always, will go up on Tuesday. You have from Tuesday when the schedule goes up until Thursday, 4 p.m. at the latest to get your picks in. All right? You can either get them into myself at SportsRap_D on Instagram, or you can put them in the group page in the comments on Sports Rap Radio Show on Facebook. You can also send them to Aaron Baldy Moore on Facebook or at Ball75. That's at BALL75 on Instagram. We will tally them up, tell you who our winner is, and the winners will be announced on social media on Tuesday. All right. So also just the main thing, if you're typing it in, if you don't screenshot and check off your wins, if you're going to list them in the comments, please go in order of the schedule, as it makes it easier for us to tally the picks up and keep your picks in order and make sure we get all of your picks correctly noted. So we move into the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Both teams coming in 0-2, looking for their first win of the season. I and myself and Baldy both were here last week, and we both picked the Eagles to win that game. And ironically, I was talking to people, and I was talking to Baldy as well. And one of the things I mentioned was knowing the Eagles' front line and defense. And we're going to talk about the secondary and the linebackers a little bit down the line. But knowing that front line and knowing what they're capable of, playing against a rookie quarterback, I felt like last week, it played into their hands, playing a rookie quarterback. And it would help them and probably, hopefully boost them into a win. That did not happen. They did have some pressure. They had some moments. But Joe Burrow showed his possibilities. Okay? And on the other side, Carson Wentz is not showing his possibilities. We had a great season from him, season 1, his first full season as starter. And then it's been mediocre ever since. I know the last 2 years, bangs up, injuries, and all of that nature, the team fought, and they willed their way into the playoffs. I really don't think that that's going to happen this year because they're hitting a tough stretch of their schedule coming up. They go to San Francisco Sunday. Then I think they have Pittsburgh and then Green Bay. So they've got 3 tough games. Now, I just mentioned on the Morning Rush that for some reason I always get this gut feeling. And like I said, in the midst of everything that's going on with them, their debacles and all of that type of stuff, I always get the urge and get the gut feeling that a game against a team like San Francisco is a team that they would beat, just because. And I mean, both teams are suffering injuries, but San Francisco yesterday seemed to pick up. The Eagles yesterday had major issues on offense. Carson Wentz overthrew a lot of people. Not overthrew. He misplaced a lot of balls yesterday. A lot of throws that he should be able to make with ease in year 5 in the NFL. And from being a number 1 pick. He should make these throws, like I said, like the commentator said yesterday, he can make some of these throws with his eyes closed. He should be able to in year 5. But we are seeing something that, as Eagles fans, we never expected it to get this bad this quickly. We are seeing a decline in the franchise quarterback this year. And hopefully things will get turned around. And initially, like always, the thoughts are and the questions come up about benching Carson Wentz. So this morning, as I'm doing some homework, before the show, I get the alert, and there's a quote from Doug Peterson who says he's not benching Carson Wentz. He says he feels like that is, and I quote, a knee-jerk reaction, end quote, and he's not going to do it. Now, I can understand that right now because it's only week 3 going into week 4, so there's a lot of football left to be played. But like Baldy brought up last week, when we get into like week 7, week 6, what do you do then? Do your thoughts change at that point and you start preparing Jalen Hurts? Or do you bench him for a game or two so he can get his act together, see how it looks from the sideline, and watch Jalen Hurts play a little bit and see if that ignites something in him to get him back on the right track. So there are going to be some decisions that are going to be made for the Eagles, like on a week-to-week basis from now on. It's not going to be just the game planning and things of that nature for the Eagles. There are going to be game plan. It's going to be game planning, of course, because that's their job. But there are going to be big decisions that are going to be that are going to need to be made from a week-to-week basis from now on. You see that the receiving core is beginning to get decimated. They need to do something with that offensive line. They gave Jason Peters some help yesterday because he started off very shaky. Very shaky. So they gave him help. So you lose a tight end. You lose your number 2 tight end. You lose Deshaun Jackson to a hamstring injury. Not placed on the IR. There's nothing reports about him missing next week. So we'll see how practice goes, and they'll make their announcement in due time. Hopefully, they can get Alshon Jeffrey back on the field next week. It would have been nice to have Marquise Goodwin in a uniform right now, but we talked about that situation with COVID-19 and everything, and I understand his fight in that, in that whole thing. Excuse me. Now, also, Jim Schwartz needs to be better, and I'm sure he knows it. But again, Carson Wentz really has not many weapons left to utilize on the offense. So, ironically, I can say that in far as Carson Wentz, comparing him and taking notes from week 1 up until week 3, I did notice some improvements in week 2, and I did notice some improvements as far as play in week 3. The couple plays where he ran and he got those first downs, that's something that we didn't see in week 1. Something that we were not used to seeing in the past couple seasons. So that's an improvement. Small things. That offensive line has to get better. He still has Miles Sanders, which is a bright spot. Greg Ward played pretty well. You still have Zach Ertz. But teams are going to look at that film yesterday and see that the Eagles receiving core has trouble getting open. As you saw yesterday against Cincinnati, there were not a lot of lanes, a lot of windows for him to throw balls to receivers. They double teamed Zach Ertz and attempted to take him out of the game as much as they could. And the offensive line on that bend don't break issue, they broke a couple times when they should have just bended. Now, you move into the end of that game. Carson Wentz did drive down the field, score that touchdown, and bring the game into a tie to send it into overtime. The Eagles had an opportunity, second possession, when all they needed to do was kick a field goal and win the game. They were going to make an attempt for a 59-yard field goal. Then they had a penalty, shot themselves in the foot. Illegal procedure on the offensive line. Followed right behind that, the uncertainty of what they wanted to do, or maybe they did it on purpose to have more room or more field for the punter to work with, but they take a delay of game penalty. So that's 2 penalties in a row in an instance where you could have possibly won the game. And I understand not kicking that field goal from the 5 yards back, which made it 59, 61, 2, 3. Made it a 64, 65-yard field goal. Would have made it that. I get that because you get the ball, the other team would get the ball where it's from the spot of the kick. So they would have excellent field position. So I get that. You want to take that field position away at that point. But you have to know that in the instance that a penalty occurs against you on that first attempt, you immediately have to know that you have to punt the ball. You can't be indecisive like they were and then run the team out there. You take that penalty, or you just flat out take that penalty. Don't make it look like it did yesterday that you were indecisive in what you wanted to do, and you take that penalty. If you're going to take that penalty, and I understand the reasons for taking that penalty, just flat out take it. Okay, don't dilly dally around with it. Just flat out take it, and things will be better. But nonetheless, the Eagles played to a tie. First tie in a long time. The possible silver lining in this tie is it was an AFC team. Good thing it wasn't a conference game or an NFC team, which could hurt them in the playoffs. Which, again, I don't think they will get in this year. I think in order for them to get in, for some way, the football guys will have to be watching over them majorly and have them win the division to even have a chance to get in. Because this division right now is just bad. The NFC East is bad all the way around. And it's a possibility that there may be no team from that division unless they win a division in the playoffs. And if that team wins a division, they're going to be at the bottom anyway. And they've added another team in. So there is a small chance. But for the Eagles, they have to go on a crazy tear. And they're almost definitely going to have to win the division to have a chance of me being in the playoffs, if that happens. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, again, the defensive line, the front four, and their rotations played pretty good. I have no complaints about the front four. They got some sacks, they got some pressure, they made key plays late down the stretch and in overtime when they needed to. The secondary, again, we're in that same boat again with the secondary. It is what it is. You've got Darius Slay, but he can't cover everybody. So ideally, you put Darius Slay on that team's number one or that team's top receiver. Then you have the rest of the guys that have to hold their own, which they haven't been doing in 3 games so far. Eagles secondary, you need some shaping up. Jim Schwartz, you need some help. You had to bring in a guy from the practice squad. He ended up having to play yesterday. You need to get more attention to detail in that secondary while they're on the field. I think that is one of the biggest issues with that secondary. It's also one of the biggest issues with the linebacking core. Nate Jerry made himself look like he didn't even belong out there yesterday. Okay, first 2 weeks, he made some mistakes, but then he had plays later in the games where he picked up and said, okay, maybe he can work through this. Yesterday, if you were watching the Eagles for the first time and you focused on that linebacking core, you would argue and say, what is he doing out there? In more ways than one. Like, what is he doing out there? Like, he looks like he's giving the impression that he's not in tune with what's going on. And as fans, people always say it, like, why is he even playing right now? He's not helping the team any. So, a lot of work to be done. And again, I say this with a grain of salt. It's still early in the season. Still only going into week 4. You know, you got 12 games left. The Eagles got more division games. They got more NFC games. But, like I said, it's not going to get any easier. They've got, again, I think they have San Francisco Sunday. I think it's like San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and then maybe it's Green Bay or maybe it's Seattle or something. But they got 3 tough games. I think it's Baltimore, matter of fact. So they got 3 tough games coming. Haven't got a win yet. 3 weeks in, you haven't gotten a win. For the first week of the season, you've actually been in the game and you somewhat competed. Or you competed a lot better than you did the first 2 weeks. Now, you can easily say, for sakes of having faith or having dialogue, again, like I said a little while ago, you saw some things in Carson Wentz that make you say, oh, okay, maybe. But then you go back and then you see others and you like, really? You know, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be super tough going through the rest of this season. And I tell you, like I said, the blessing is it's only week 4. And people are probably looking and saying, well, listening and saying, oh, week 4, like it's A lot of people are saying the season is over. It could be, but then again, we know how the Eagles do when their backs are up against the wall. Didn't show that yesterday, but it's still early in the season. And when I say their backs up against the wall, I mean towards the end of the season. So a lot of work needs to be done. A lot of work needs to be done on both sides of the ball. And I think where they are now, they put Jalen Hurts in for a couple plays, and like one of the commentators said yesterday, now you have to begin to devise some plays for him and incorporate them into your game plan now. Because now you have to pull out all the stops because you need to start getting wins. Definitely wins. And with the limited wide receiver core or the limited abilities of the wide receiving core, the current wide receiver core, because we're still uncertain about Deshaun Jackson, haven't seen Alshon Jeffrey yet, don't know what's going on with Dallas Goedert. So a lot of teams, like I said, are going to try and take Zach Ertz out of the game. And the other guys are going to have to step up. Richard Rodgers, the third tight end. I like what I saw in Greg Ward. Again, they drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside very high when he was drafted. Haven't seen or heard anything from him yet. Deontay Burnett had a couple good catches, which is good. But these guys are going to have to step up. And they're going to have to learn how to get some separation to help Carson Wentz out. Because he's looking bad, but the receiving core is not helping. They're compounding it and making it look worse, a lot worse than what it really is. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Carson Wentz is out of the woods. I'm not. I just started off by saying he's playing bad. But the receivers are not helping at all right now. The defensive linebacking core and the secondary are not helping right now. So coaches, head coach Doug Peterson, defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz, you guys got to get in the lab. You got to get these guys on the practice field, and you have to get them, once again, focused on detail. Has to be done because you have to get wins. Pretty soon, I'm not going to be able to say it's early in the season. Pretty soon, I'm going to be saying, it's not looking real good. It's looking bleak. Don't know if it's going to happen. All those types of things will be coming soon if you don't start getting some wins. And it's a perfect time. And like I said, I just have a gut feeling, as always. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. I admit that. But what better way to begin to turn the tide than get a win in San Francisco? And I understand San Francisco is banged up, probably even more than the Eagles are banged up. But they are the defending NFC champs. Still, they showed that they have some people that want to play. I get it. People are probably going to say, well, it was the Giants and whatever. Shout out to Raheem Graves, too, for the Giants fan. And my guy, Dink De Niro. Y'all, I feel your pain, bros. I feel it. Because you see what my guys are doing, so I feel your pain in that. Just wanted to give you guys a shout out as well, because we're in the same boat right now. But a lot of things have to be worked on. A lot of changes have to be made. A lot of work is still yet to be done. Eagles hopefully will get some wins. And like I was saying, what better way to turn this tide than to get a win against the San Francisco 49ers? It's a conference game which could help. Again, they are defending NFC champs, which could help in the long run. So we'll see what happens when we kick off week 2. Before I close out this segment, I'm going to give you now, I'm going to go through the schedule week 4. I'm going to give you my picks. Now, I'm going to pick the Eagles-San Francisco game first. And I'm going to buck the system. I'm going to go against the grain a little bit. And I'm going to pick the 49ers in that game. Then I'm going to go through the rest of the schedule in order. And I'll repeat that again. I'm not going to pick them this week. I'm trying to change up the mojo, get some things floating here, as a fan. So I'm going to go against them this week and see if they prove me wrong and steal a game out in San Francisco. On Thursday, October the 1st, Denver at the New York Jets. Wow. Two teams that I think are 0-3. Denver is having some quarterback issues right now, so I'm going to stretch and go with the Jets in that game. Indianapolis at Chicago. Nick Foles made a debut, and again, he is a fill-in type of guy, like I always said. Great backup. I'm going to go with the Bears at home. Jacksonville at Cincinnati. I like some of the things that Cincinnati did yesterday. Jacksonville, haven't seen much of them except for Monday night and the way they played against that. So because they beat us, or they played to a tie with us, I'm going to go with Jacksonville on the road. Cleveland at Dallas. I am going to stretch here and go with Cleveland in Dallas because it's Dallas. Now, you know I'm an Eagles fan, and you know we do not like the Cowboys. But I have to be honest, there have been times when I picked the Cowboys to win some games, when there are teams that I feel like, even with what I think about the Cowboys, I think they can beat. So I have picked them to win games before, so don't get me wrong. But just because I'm going with Cleveland in this game. New Orleans at Detroit. I'm going with the Saints to bounce back after a loss on Sunday night. Pittsburgh at Tennessee. Pittsburgh has found some kind of rejuvenation over there. Ben Roethlisberger looks like he's playing a lot better. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh over Tennessee. Seattle at Miami. Taking the Seahawks in that game. The Chargers at Tampa Bay. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay at home. Baltimore at Washington. I'm going to go with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Arizona at Carolina. I'm going to go on a limb, stretching here too, and pick Arizona in this game, as I did with the Dallas-Cleveland game. Minnesota at Houston. I'm going to go with Houston at home. The Giants are in LA to play the Rams. I'm going to go with the Rams there. New England is in KC. Going with my homie, and the Chiefs. And take the Chiefs in that game. Buffalo at Las Vegas. Like the defense. I've seen some improvements. I like what I'm seeing or beginning to see in Josh Allen out there in Buffalo, and I like their defense. I'm going to go with Buffalo there. Again, like I said, Philadelphia at San Francisco. I'm going to pick San Francisco in hopes that I can whip something up and they can steal that game in there. Tyreek Ruley, my guy. Ray Gordon, my guy. Just a pick here. I'm not saying it. I just have it. This is how I think. This is how I get myself motivated. Sometimes cousin Brad, thanks for tuning in. So I'm going to pick San Francisco there in that game. And like I said, I'm doing it with ulterior motives, so you guys already know that. But shout outs to you, Tyreek Ruley and Ray Gordon, two guys that I know that are San Francisco fans that are good friends of mine. And Monday night, to close out week 4, Atlanta at Green Bay. You know who I'm picking there. Discount double check, taking the Green Bay at home. Before I close out this segment, I have to make an announcement or something that I missed in my news and updates. Shout outs to good friend of the show, Iron Mighty Mouse Robinson, who was in South Carolina over the weekend with his fighter, Nafir Charles, who garnered a first-round TKO down in South Carolina. He is now 4-0 with 4 KOs. So shout outs to him. Shout outs to Mighty Mouse Ivan Robinson for being a good friend and a friend of the show. It's your boy D, 44 minutes past the 11 a.m. hour. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit of NBA playoffs. We're going to talk about that matchup, Lakers Heat, and talk a little bit of Sixers before we ride out. It's your boy. See you on the other side in just a few minutes.